Welcome to Sales is Not a Dirty Word, the podcast that shows you how to convert 8 out of 10 sales conversations without acting like a douchebag. I'm your host, innovative sales coach, Aleasha Bahr, the creator of the Black Sheep Sales Method. Because if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there's no selling involved. If you're a service provider selling your own service and you're ready to sell differently than the mainstream status quo and win more sales without pressure, pitching, or pretending to be someone else, then this is for you. If you want to know more about the Black Sheep Sales Method, then go to Aleashabahr.com. So this episode is about how to really increase your income. Sales is something that doesn't end after a client signs up with you. And that may sound like common sense, but I cannot tell you how many people and companies I've witnessed lose so much money by only focusing on new client acquisition. When that's the only thing you're looking at, you're constantly chasing your tail and keeping up with having to fill that pipeline with new clients. And those people, the new clients, they don't trust you yet. They're colder. The best way that you can increase your income is by focusing on your current clients and retaining them or upselling them. So I ran my numbers, and 110,000 of my revenue this year came from retaining current clients and upselling them. And 90,000 came from new clients. That in turn will produce a lot of those new clients will be a lot more income next year as I retain them, right? So this is how it was when I worked at corporate and when I had my own digital marketing agency. So I made over 6 figures at my marketing agency just by retaining and upselling the same 4 to 5 clients because I was just a little guy, right? I was just me. And I did try to grow and hire a team and take on more clients. And obviously, that's another story. But I shifted to doing just sales strategy because it's a lot of extra work without extra money. Okay. So I found that I made a pretty good income just by maintaining the relationships that I had and selling them new things. And so the way to do this, and you're not selling them things that they don't need, right? A lot of times there is another step that needs to be done. There is something else to refine. And there's no one better for your client to do that with than someone they already trust who already knows their business so well, rather than going to someone new. They don't know if that person's full of shit or going to do what they say they're going to do. And that person doesn't know all of the context and history and information that you do about them. That is just to position it as, it's not like, ooh, how can I sell this person some stuff they don't need? It's not like that, right? And if you aren't focusing on retaining your clients, then shit is just leaking out. Just money is just leaking out because every 3 months, every 6 months, people are leaving and you constantly have to fill that. So this should start from the very beginning with onboarding. And the idea for this episode came to me because I'm working with a client who I worked with to refine their sales process. And they started bringing in 7 out of 10 people that they were talking to, cold traffic, and they were losing them. Like they would sign 3-month contracts and they would lose them. And so I was like, we need to look at your onboarding process and your account management process because that really is part of the sales process ultimately. And so in the very beginning, this client sells SEO essentially. And it's really important to manage expectations with a client that you're going to need some stuff from them. So they had people who weren't responding. They were like, we need access to this, that, and the other. They just weren't answering. And then 3 months later, they'd be like, this didn't work. It was a waste of money. And it's like, well, you never got us the stuff that we needed. So from the very beginning, we set the stage that, hey, this is a 50-50 partnership. And in order for this to work, we need an inside contact who can help us. Who will be our resource there? Please link us up with that person immediately. And we're going to send you a checklist. And the sooner you complete that, the sooner you will get results. And the more you delay completing that, the delay will be seen in your results. So from the very beginning, setting the stage of what we need from them so that they can get results and be a happy client, and letting them know very directly, if you do not do this, you will not be a happy client and you will not get results. And so a lot of the team, when they were communicating with clients, they were kind of using this like really fluffy language that like you couldn't really understand what they were saying. You could if you read into it, but here's the thing. Most people aren't reading. Most people are skimming. and they just need to know the basics. So you need to be very clear, which is how we shifted to this language that I'm talking about, where it's like in bold letters, if you don't do this, you won't get results. That'll make people pay attention. Trust me. So whenever I worked as a marketing agency or in corporate selling digital, this would be me getting a resource on the inside, right? I need a resource that I can talk to about this stuff. And also setting up monthly touch points. Too often do companies, service providers not have a monthly touch point. They just continue doing a service and assume that the client knows that they're doing all this stuff in the background. But you have to tell the client. And not only do you have to tell the client, you have to connect what you did to a result that matters to them, just like the sales process, right? So instead of saying, oh, we updated your schema code or whatever, you're going to say, we updated your schema code to position you as an expert in a more specific way that clients will like when they see it online. Then that person can say, oh, great. Everything that we report on within this SEO company leads back to them becoming a more credible authority and more visible online. So that is just an extension of what I share about the sales process, right? Because so many people focus only on deliverables and not the result of them in their sales process. And then they do the same thing when somebody is a client. So it's really important to focus on the results from that. And here's the piece that a lot of people miss. You want to share the wins, the before and afters. This is what we saw. This is what you were doing before. And this is the result that has come from us doing this. Are you seeing a difference in your business? You have to confirm that result with them, because if you believe that the thing you did gave them value and a result, but they don't, it doesn't really matter, right? So you want to make sure they're seeing this translated into their business. Maybe they don't know what to look for. Maybe they don't know what is a win. You have to point that out for them so that they understand and have a conversation and discussion about it. And if they're not seeing it in their business, then you should talk about why not and what to adjust and do differently, and agree upon what success would look like. So this is a big thing people miss in onboarding, is milestones for success. So this is what we're going to reach. And when we hit X, we'll know that we were successful, right? This is what we're all agreeing upon would make a difference for you. And you want that to be something that you feel comfortable committing to, right? So we're going to reduce the time it takes to onboard somebody by a week, if you're in operations, for example. And everybody can feel good about that, and it can be measurable, right? Too often service providers don't have measurable milestones that have been agreed upon ahead of time. So clients leave because they think that they didn't get value when they did. And that is devastating. So you're going to want to do that. You're also going to want to have a monthly touch point where you confirm that they got the value that from your end, it looks like they received. The third thing that's going to make a huge difference is talking to them before their contract is up. Unfortunately, a lot of service providers don't talk to someone until it's time to re-sign or upsell. And at that point, it's too late. You're going to be like, hey, do you want to renew? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And they're going to say, let me talk about it with our team. Let me talk about it with my people, or whatever. And there's going to be this delay because it is essentially another sale, right? And so the conversation needs to happen ahead of time, or there will be a gap in the service, and that will definitely affect your results. You really want to always be setting the stage in these monthly touch points where you're discussing the result they got and the value of that result to them and confirming that they got the value of that result. You also want to talk about what's next. So this is what we're going to do next. There's a plan, right? They can feel like they're always moving forward. This is the thing that we're going to optimize next. This is the thing we're going to refine next. I would recommend focusing on this next because the data shows us that people really want a survey from you, or the data shows us that you would have a very strong fourth quarter if we implemented XYZ. And so when you talk about that, what's next all the time, it naturally lends itself to a client staying with you because they want what's next and they want the result of what's next. So you want to talk about the result of what you've done, confirm that they got it, and talk about the next thing and the result that will produce. It's basically you're always in somewhat of a sales mindset. And it's not in a way that's like manipulative or taking advantage of somebody or taking their money. It's in a way that is in their best interest and yours. Too often people just assume that the client knows that they're getting value and they know the value of the deliverables you're doing when you submit a report. They don't. You have to connect those dots for them. So this is going to double your income if you implement it. And the last thing that I would say is to have a very clear exit process. So, for example, I do an exit interview. A lot of times people just let contracts in and they're like, bye, there's no offboarding. It's not a great experience, right? So, I have an exit interview where somebody fills out a form, and I implement this with my clients that I work with too. Somebody fills out a form and we have a meeting where we talk about where they were before and where they are now. Is there anything that they would improve? Is there anything remaining that they want to complete? And it's a great time to record a testimonial during that meeting, because if you will be chasing your client forever after that without a response to get a testimonial. And it's just way easier to do it all at once and do it when it's fresh, when they're just getting offboarded. And a lot of times an opportunity will present itself in that meeting to discuss continuing work together, right? So I hope this is helpful for you. To recap, it is setting milestones and onboarding someone with expectations from the beginning, being very clear without fluffy language that's quote unquote professional. Then having a monthly touch point where you communicate what has been done, the result of that, and you're going to talk about what's next and what the result of that will be and why it's next, especially if it's based on data or experience or results that you're having up to that point. And then when the client contract is up, you're going to want to be communicating with them ahead of time about that and having an exit process that wraps things up with a bow. And we can all agree that this wonderful stuff happened from this and you can go on your merry way, or we can continue doing amazing things together, right? So I hope this is helpful for you guys. And obviously, this is something that I do with clients. It's something I look at because it is an extension of the sales process. So if that's something that you want me to take a look at, please book a sales level up call. The link is in my show notes. And if this was helpful for you, can you please like, subscribe, and share the podcast? It's really something, getting my voice louder is something I would really appreciate your help with, since I'm just a little tiny black sheep in a big sea of white sheep who are all saying the same thing. Either way, thank you so much for listening, and until next time.